the time when I realized that I have to leave
This is one time when I realised how important
The Empathy Museum presents A Mile in My Shoes. Now I have in my hand a pair of flip-flops. They're a sort of gold, pale brown colour. They have a simple plastic strap in the normal way which goes between the toe, and then two bands follow round to hold the foot. There's very little else one can say about them. They're called Havaianas, which suggests that perhaps they're used for beach and for summer and for very, very casual wear like that. They're in pretty good condition and would probably be very useful on holiday. These flip-flops belong to Skye Windbank. This is her story.
My name's Skye Windbank. I'm currently travelling around Australia in a camper van with my husband Ben and our 4 daughters. Indigo is 5. We have 2 3-year-old twins, Asha and Saskia, and Archie, our 10-month-old. So we've been on the road since April, so about 8 months so far, due back in a couple of months. About 3 years ago, we were just travelling down south in WA and we saw a camel train just taking rides. We chatted to the guy there and he had just done a year on camelback, and that inspired us to think about going on a camel ride. And we thought, oh, yeah, that sounds awesome, we could do that. We just had Indy at the time, and we started working at a camel farm just out of Perth, and we had the twins and took some time off from that and then came back after the twins were about 4 months old. And then, yeah, we were training camels every second weekend, and we could find a babysitter to look after the kids while we did that. And we were going to leave when the twins turned 2. And then when I got pregnant with Archie, and he was like, no, people do this. The nomads in the Middle East, travel by camel. That's how they live. And I'm like, yeah, but we're not nomads and we're not in the Middle East. This is not our life. So, yeah, I put a stop to the trip. It was my fault. I ended the dream. So then we picked up on the camper van, which has been great. The moment we left the driveway, it was like all of a sudden I could look forward and look towards what we were actually doing, because up until that time it had been so hectic just planning to get out of the house. We were renting out the house that we live in. So we had to pack that all up and clean that up, all with the 4 little kids going crazy all the time, and they were excited and everything was moving, and it was this full adjustment. We were half living in the camper van, half living in our house, and we finally left it was a Wednesday morning. It was a beautiful morning, and we all piled in the car and we took a photo of the car coming out of the driveway, and then we were off, and it was fun. It was really exciting. I didn't even look at a map until we got on the road on that first day after we left the driveway. I thought, okay, now it's time to get the map out. And so we went, okay. Oh, we knew the first stop. We sort of thought, yeah, we'll get past Lancel and we'll just see, Jurien Bay, somewhere around there. Every camp spot we'd look and go, oh, where should we get to next? How far away is that point? And we'd go for it. The moment we hit our stride, definitely for me, was when we hit the East Coast, which was a fair way into our journey, probably 6 months in. But we'd come from Darwin and we'd had this awful experience in Darwin with midgie bites, and it was awful. We all had about 200 bites on us that had blistered up and gone into welts. And so we hightailed it out of Darwin, and we just drove and drove and drove for 3 days or 4 days straight across from Darwin down Tennant Creek, Mount Isa, and then up to just north of Cairns. And it's really dry country all through there, really dry, and burn-offs happen all the time, and so there's not much vegetation. And then all of a sudden you hit the East Coast and you've got this lush rainforest, tropical rainforest, and it's green everywhere, and it's just, now it's good. That was my feeling, just, I can do this. This is great. I love this. So we had a basic schedule of getting back to Perth in time for Indy to start school in January. But while we were on the trip, an invitation came out to go. We have a farm in Buxton, Victoria. They were having a Buxton reunion for past and current Buxton residents that had left since the bushfires of 2009. And so we lost our farmhouse on Black Saturday, and so did a lot of other people in the area. And so it was just an opportunity to reconnect with a lot of people. And so we thought that'd be a lovely thing to come back for. And also it coincided amazingly with the anniversary of my parents' death as well. So to return there at that time, and it was a full moon, it seemed like I'd gone full circle. And it was a bit of healing, I guess. In 2001, I'd just returned from overseas travelling, and I was sitting down at the table with my mum, and she said, "I think your father's having an affair." And my jaw dropped, and I couldn't believe it. And I said, "What made you think? Why on earth would you say that? Why do you think that?" And she said, "I saw them. It was with his personal assistant who'd had for 20 years. And he said, I saw a look between them. And a wife knows that look." So then I offered to check it out, and my dad was going away on a work trip the next weekend, so I called up the hotel that he was staying at, and I said, "I'm just confirming that reservation for Mr. Winterbank. Is that for one or two people?" And they said, "Oh, that's for two people." And I called the airline and again confirmed how many passengers were on the flight booked from that ticket, and there were two. And then my mum confronted him up at the farm, and I was down in Melbourne, and that was heartbreaking and gutting for the whole family. Destroyed us. We found out after they died that he had been having the affair for 17 years with this woman that had been quite involved in our lives, and it was a really sad demise of my mother and father's relationship until for 2 years sort of this went on. He came and went a couple of times, and he didn't want to hurt Mum, but he loved the other woman, and Mum wouldn't get over it and couldn't accept it. And so in the end she shot Dad and then suicided herself at the farm. In the middle of that, she called me, and I was at a cafe in Melbourne just having finished work, and she said, "I've just shot Dad. Call my brother and my best friend and come up here quickly." And I said to her, "Don't do anything stupid, Mum. Just I'll be there as soon as I can." And I hung up the phone, which, I then went on to realise that's like the number one rule you don't do if someone's suicidal, hang up the phone. So anyway, we drove up and the scene played out. I forgave them straight away. I completely understood their pain on both sides, They both did really bad things. Who's to judge? Is having an affair really bad? Is killing someone really bad? Well, most people would say, of course, killing someone's way worse than having an affair. But he destroyed her life, and I understood that. And she talked at length about it with me, and she was, she couldn't get over it. So I understood exactly why she did it. I couldn't empathise with my dad for a long time. He was the wrongdoer in the whole thing for a long time. And I thought, Dad did do a really bad thing, and it was sort of, I took it personally, but it wasn't personal against me. He fell in love and he went with it. He didn't have any self-control about it, which was, the real problem. But and her, the other woman, she lost a lot. They had all these plans for retirement and the rest of their lives together, and I guess they'd been waiting for it a bit. So it's just sad for everyone. It was a really, really sad situation. It has affected how I see things. I was always quite black and white, but I think I wait for the full story when I, see something that I'm not as quick to judge by any means, and I realise that, everybody's got a story going on, and it's important to know that before you can really be harsh towards someone. I do have to pinch myself to remind myself how lucky I am, and I do have my own dream. I've got my husband and my children, and we're happy, and healthy and going well. So, you've got to remember that regularly. Just take stock of what you do have. Don't think about what you don't have.
Skye's story was produced by Marnie Richardson. Her shoes are part of a growing collection of footwear hosted by the Empathy Museum's A Mile in My Shoes exhibition. The shoes and stories come from all over the world. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram to find out where we're going next.
just